Hey everybody, welcome to Bike Revs. I'm Mark. Now I know that I am well overdue giving you a review on this Speed Triple 1200 RS. And in an attempt to do something slightly different to what everyone else was doing, I was going to talk about some of the myths around the bike. The biggest one being about reliability. You see, if you go onto any of the forums or Facebook groups, all people seem to be talking about is the various error messages that they get on this thing. So whether it's the valve in the exhaust, the screens, the quick shifter, engine management lights, the endless recalls, people are talking about all of this. And to be honest, if you were to look at those reviews before you bought one, well, you probably wouldn't buy one. So I wanted to talk about that with my experience, having owned it for, well, a good 4 months and having done, actually I'm not sure how far I've done for reasons that will become apparent in a minute. Now, the only reliability issues that I've had up until this point have really been, I had to change the battery on the key fob, which is no biggie. But now I've got a bit of a problem. You see, the dashboard, whilst it works, I can't seem to get into any of the menus, so I hit the toggle switch as usual, nothing comes up. The toggle switch actually works if I'm going through the rider modes, but it doesn't work. I can't bring up the menus, I've got no computer in effect. Also, the self-cancelling indicators have gone a bit wobbly because when I indicate left, it turns off automatically after like 2 flashes, and if I turn right, it stays on. So there's something wrong. I'm not sure if it's this switch unit or whether it's actually the computer system. So what I've done is I've phoned Triumph up and I've had a chat with them. They've confirmed that it's under warranty, so I'm going to take it in on Wednesday and give it to Triumph to have a look at. So hopefully I'm going to go into Triumph, and having spoken to them, they're going to give me a bike to ride away on. They're going to keep it for the afternoon, and fingers crossed it will just be a software update on that computer system and that'll fix it. It is under warranty, as I say, so again, hopefully it won't cost me a penny. So let's come back Wednesday then and find out how that goes. Okay then, here we are. It's Wednesday morning. I'm getting ready to go to Triumph, and as you can see, we've gone from blazing sunshine a couple of days ago down to pouring rain. Well, why wouldn't it be pouring with rain? It is, after all, only the middle of summer. So anyway, flip the bike on, and I'm just going to try these controls again because I don't want to turn up and it's all working. So if we just have a look at this now, get the screen booted up. And at this point, you probably notice that there's a spanner on the display. This is because I tried disconnecting the battery in order to just reset everything. But the only thing I managed to reset was the time. So the bike now thinks it's 1990 or something. And of course, I can't get into any of the menus to change the time, so it thinks it needs a service. Anyway, as you can see by the display, I've tried to get into the menus again. I've used the left-hand toggle switch. I've used the home button on the right-hand side. But nothing will get me into the menus properly. All I can do really is adjust the rider modes and the various parameters for the ride modes, but then I can't come back out of it. So that's really annoying. Let's get on the road and get down to Triumph. Okay, so I've arrived at Triumph, parked up over there, ready to go in, and here's the showroom from the outside. So let's get in there and book the bike in. Right, the bike's in. Now, I've not heard great things about customer support at Triumph Cheltenham, but I've got to tell you, so far it's been pretty good. Very friendly, very easy to deal with, and they've given me teas, coffee, and a nice place to sit down whilst they have a look at it. Now, they think it's the switchgear, but they can't be sure, so they're going to have a good look. Meanwhile, I'm just going to have a wander around the showroom and have a look at the bikes outside. These are the ones you can take out for a test ride. Hopefully I'm not going to need one, but let's see. Right, and as you can probably see now, I'm sitting astride a completely different bike. Can you guess which one it is? Anyway, whilst I'm sitting here, the point is that they've had to take my bike in. They've said there's a couple of things. Firstly, there's a significant software update for the display, and there's also yet another recall that needs to be done. So I had the major recall done on the bike, the one that came out a few months ago, which makes the bike run a little bit richer, so it runs cooler, and also the fans come on after the engine's stopped. So all that's been done. But this latest recall apparently makes the fans come in at much lower temperature whilst the bike's running, so therefore keeping the whole thing cooler again. The important thing is that that computer that presents all the display information is getting upgraded, so hopefully that's going to fix it. Let's see. But hey, let's get back to this bike that they've given me whilst they're doing all that work on mine. And as you can see, it's a Triumph Bonneville T100. I've got to say, it's a real surprise. I looked at it and thought, oh, I didn't really choose this one. Probably wouldn't have been my first choice, but I've had an absolute blast on it. It's a really lovely, comfortable bike. Well, after my usual Triumph, it doesn't go particularly quickly. And in fact, with that single disc brake at the front, it doesn't stop very quickly either. But it's not about that really, is it? It's just about being a very cool bike and going around on something which gives you a feeling of nostalgia and days of yesteryear, whilst providing you with a bike that won't break down every 5 minutes. And for that, I've got to love it. It's certainly very, very comfortable. You could ride that all day long. So I'm having a great time, and I'm going to ride around on this until I get the phone call from Triumph to come back and pick my bike up. Okay, as the sign says, it's 2 weeks later and I get a call from Triumph to say that they have a new set of switchgear, so bring the bike in. Now, once again, I'm given the Bonneville, but this time for a whole weekend, as the triple couldn't be fixed in a day. Secretly, I was quite pleased about this, so I grabbed my mate Ali on his Ducati Diavel, and we rode like kings out to a place called Coty Auto Trolley in Chipping Camden. We love this place for quality coffee and cakes, plus an excellent biker vibe and loads going on in the shop with various bikes and trinketry. But sadly, a week after we visited, and they shut down, so that's a place that's going to be sorely missed by everybody in this area. Back to the bike, and it wasn't fixed, and they told me that they now need to replace part of the front wiring loom. Well, still under warranty, and I was like, well, whatever, crack on, give me a call when it comes in. Sure enough, 4 weeks passed, and I find myself back en route to Triumph, and I have to say, it was with some excitement over seeing my Bonnie again, but alas, they'd sold it. So, whilst the Speed Triple was in being supposedly having its wires replaced, I was given a Scrambler 400 to play with. Now, to be honest, when I got on it, it felt a bit cheap. I certainly wouldn't try and scramble on one, and I know it's only a 400, but it was quite hard to get any sort of speed out of it. I also found it difficult to get around corners, and it had the stopping power of an oil tanker. So, not really the bike for me, but I do get it. At less than £6,000, it's a bargain new bike, and it does look cool, so there's definitely a market for it, even if I didn't really like it, having only spent an hour with it. Now back to the Speed Triple, and finally it's fixed. So what was the problem? Well, it turns out they didn't replace a wiring loom after all, and it was simply the right hand switch gear because the home button was broken. So let's just recap what's gone wrong here. They did a software and firmware update, they replaced the left hand switch gear, and then they replaced the right hand switch gear. I feel that could have been a little bit more efficient, but hey, I've got to ride lots of different bikes in the meantime, and it didn't cost me a penny. Now, what I am slightly concerned about is that if it wasn't under warranty, then how much would I be out of pocket? Was the fact that they weren't entirely accurate with what they were doing a way of bumping up the price, not realising that I wasn't a paying customer? I don't know, but I will just finish by saying that at the end of this rather protracted story, the only thing that was actually wrong with my bike was a dodgy home button. So I've now done 5,000 miles on it, and other than this issue, it has been actually quite faultless. However, if I do keep it till next year, I'll definitely be getting the extended warranty. Okay then everyone, thanks for listening, and just remember, especially now that it's winter, to keep your chain oiled, and I'll see you soon.